All right, continuing on in Proverbs, we are at Proverbs 25. So let's take a look at a few verses, and we're going to start with verses 2 and 3. And it says, "It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings is to search things out. As the heavens for height and the earth for depth, so the heart of kings is unsearchable." Now, the idea here is that, first off, God is glorified through his creation. Right, so through everything that he created, he gets glory for that. So anytime that we marvel at the sky and the stars, or anytime we marvel at a sunset, or anytime we just kind of look upon nature and we're just amazed, or if we look at some of the miracles of life, like the birth of a child, things like this, when we just marvel at these things, God's glorified because you're looking upon his work and you're saying, wow. And we're oohing and awing over it, and God's glorified in that. God's glorified in it. God's glorified when we take time to notice the small things. Take time to smell the roses, which He also created. And so, really, what this proverb is talking about is it's the glory of God to conceal things. So it's like saying it's the glory of God to play hide and seek. And so, God knows everything, and God likes to reveal things to us. And God's, glorified in this because he already knew these things. And then we come along and we discover these things and we're like, oh, wow, like that's how that works. Like that's awesome. That's amazing. And really it's with that logic that really I think that, science and theology, really they're not enemies. They're friends. They're in cahoots with each other. Because science, reveals the work of God, and some people argue, no, that's not the case. But no, I think that's true. It's through science that we can kind of understand how God has designed the world, and it's how everything works and everything flows together. There's still a lot of things that we don't know, and God be glorified because He does know these things. And even though we've advanced as much as we have in technology, and we have all these different things going on, we still don't know. And so, and again, God is glorified really in our ignorance and kind of in our discovery of new concepts. So that's verses 2 and 3. Let's look at 16 and 17. And it says, "If you have found honey, eat only enough for you, lest you have your fill of it and vomit it. Let your foot seldom be in your neighbor's house, lest he have his fill of you and hate you." And so the idea for really both of these verses is too much of anything is not a good thing. So we've talked about honey before, and I think we're all kind of in agreement that honey is delicious. It's tasty. It's very, very good, and it's good for you. But as with anything, too much of it's not good for you. It'll make you sick. Here it says, you'll vomit. So consume things wisely. And again, that goes for everything. And then kind of in 17, it's kind of weird because it's like, wait, what do you mean? I shouldn't go to my neighbor's house very often? And so this is really talking about, again, too much of anything is not good. This is really talking about overstaying your welcome. If you're always going over to your neighbor's house, they may get tired of you. They may get tired of you coming, and maybe they don't want to tell you not to come, but they're going to be like, they're back. They're coming over again. Oh, honey, what do we do? Shut the lights off, duck down. Maybe they won't see that we're home, or whatever the case may be. And so when it's talking about them hating you, it's for that reason. It's because you've overstayed your welcome. You've come over too much, and they kind of despise you for it. So that's 16 and 17. Let's look at 18. Let's look at 18 real quick. It says, "Trusting in a treacherous man in time of trouble is like a bad tooth or a foot that slips." And so really what this is talking about, if you have a bad tooth, something it's constantly hurting you, and you're like, oh, and so, and it's really worse when you eat. And the idea here is that, trusting in a treacherous man, or trusting in someone that is not reliable, it's comparison to them being a toothache, or to being a bad foot. When I need to eat, my tooth hurts me, or when I need to walk somewhere for something, my foot is bothering me. So the unreliable person, they're like a bad tooth. They're painful at times. Let's look at one more. Oh, let's look at 21 and 22. This is good. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. Okay? For you will be heaping burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. And so this is killing them with kindness, right? Like we've talked about, don't seek revenge. That's God's game. Let him, avenge any wrong that's being done to you. And so rather than seek revenge, really what you should do is actually, show compassion. So, your enemy is hungry, your enemy is thirsty, your enemy falls down, you help them get back up. If your enemy has a need, rather than, laughing at them, ridiculing them, whatever you may do, no, you provide for them. You give them food when they're hungry. You give them water when they're thirsty. You extend a hand when they fall down. And again, you're killing them with kindness. And what Proverbs says here is it's like heaping burning coals on their head, because here's a person that they've wronged you. They may not like you for whatever reason, but you don't give them a reason to not like you. And in fact, by being nice to them, by showing compassion to them, really there's no reason that they shouldn't like you. And it's like heaping burning coals on them, because they're kind of like, oh, I want to hate this person, but they're so nice. They're so nice. Like, that was nice of you to help me here. And they may not, they may never admit it, but really that's what you're doing. You're heaping burning coals upon their head. And in by doing that, by showing compassion to them, it says in the second part of 22 is the Lord will reward you. So show compassion, help out your enemies, don't eat too much honey, and we'll see you in the next video.